For antiwar.com and Chaos Radio 95.9 in Austin, Texas, I'm Scott Horton, and this is Anti-War Radio. Time to welcome our first guest. It's Michigan attorney Kurt Haskell. His website is haskellfamily.blogspot.com. 2 L's in Haskell there. haskellfamily.blogspot.com. Welcome back to the show, Kurt. How are you?
I'm doing good today. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate you joining us on the show again here. You guys remember we talked with Kurt about a month ago. He was an eyewitness to some things that didn't quite seem right on Flight 253. Well, before, during, and after Flight 253, where this young man, Abdulmutallab, attempted to set off a bomb over Detroit on Christmas Day. And there have been some developments in the case, so I'm happy to have you here to go over some of this. I guess, in the first place, why don't you give us kind of the brief version of what exactly it was that you saw at the airport in Amsterdam when apparently this young man was changing planes from Lagos, Nigeria, in Amsterdam there, and then getting on the same plane as you, Flight 253, to Detroit.
Okay. What I saw in Amsterdam, I'll just explain it real quick. My wife and I were sitting on the floor playing cards near the final ticket gate. We had already gone through all the security procedures, so this was in a secure area. We were about 10 feet from the final ticket gate, and I saw Mutallab go to the counter with another man who looked like he was a wealthy-looking Indian man who's been now called the so-called sharp-dressed man. They approached the counter together. Only the Indian man spoke, and what he said was, this man needs to board the plane, but he doesn't have a passport. The ticket agent then said, well, if he doesn't have a passport, he can't board the plane. And the Indian man then said, he's from Sudan. We do this all the time. And the ticket agent then referred the two of them down a hallway to speak to a manager. And I never saw the Indian man again, and obviously Mutallab would later try and blow up our plane.
All right, now, and can you be certain that the well-dressed man did not get on the plane? I guess after you guys got off the plane in Detroit, everyone who'd been on the plane was in one big holding area with the cops for a while there, right?
Right, yeah, for hours and hours. And I looked for him, and there was no one that even closely resembled him at all. Mm-hmm. So I'm near 100% certain that he wasn't on the flight.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of things here. First of all, I guess on this part of the story, they just denied that you were right about this and gave quite a few different accounts of what happened there. And I wanted to bring up a couple of possibilities. I guess I don't know this for certain, but it seems, well, this part is, you may be certain about this, that there was surveillance video of that entire secure holding area we were talking about before when you were through security but not yet on the plane, where you witnessed this happening. And then also I've read that in Amsterdam, they have such high security there that every passenger is taken and interviewed on a one-on-one basis. And can you verify that? Were you interviewed on a one-on-one basis before getting through security? And if so, was there a video camera there, or do you know?
My wife and I were interviewed together. It was pretty, the questions were pretty standard. You know, were you in possession of your carry-on bags at all times? Did anyone try and put anything in them? Those kind of questions. We had 4 or 5 questions. I didn't notice any cameras around, but I wasn't looking for them because nothing raised any red flags to me at that time. So,
right.
But the Dutch police have come out and said they reviewed 200 hours of security video from the Amsterdam airport. So 200 hours is pretty extensive when we're only looking at a 1 to 2 hour possible time period between flights. So that tells me there are about 100 different cameras around, maybe 200. So, you know, I would think that they would have video of all these areas.
Mm-hmm. All right, now...
can I say one other thing?
Sure.
The official story on the sharp-dressed man didn't change a few times. I don't want the listeners to get confused. The official story was, we reviewed 200 hours of security video, and it shows no accomplices. The changed story the story regarding the so-called man in orange, a different man I saw after we landed, changed 5 times. So I just don't want anyone to get confused on that.
Right, yeah. Thanks for clarifying that.
Sure.
Although they have changed their story, I guess, at least once now I guess I don't want to read too much into this, but I'm not sure it would be reading too much into it to quote from, admittedly, it's Brian Ross at ABC News, so, who knows, but it does say that as part of the additional security, federal agents are conducting extensive background checks on every passenger who flew to Detroit on the Northwest flight in case one of them might have been sent as a spotter on the mission. And federal agents tell ABCnews.com they are attempting to identify a man who passengers said helped Abdulmutallab change planes for Detroit when he landed in Amsterdam from Lagos, Nigeria. Authorities had initially discounted the passenger accounts, but the agents say there is a growing belief the man, I guess, may have played a role to make sure Abdulmutallab did not get cold feet. And that's from the article Alert Female Suicide Bombers May Be Heading Here from Yemen at abcnews.com. But this is an apparent reference to you and your wife, sounds like.
Yeah, I just want to make a few comments on that. Number one, this article came out January 22nd, 29 days after our flight. Where was this article up until then? The official story until that point was we reviewed 200 hours of security video and it shows nothing. Were you lying then or are you lying now, federal government? It's one or the other. Because obviously, if there's now a growing belief that the man played a role, well, you've had the video all along, and you're not showing it, so we're to believe you now, I guess. A couple other things on that article. It's an article about female suicide bombers. It really has nothing to do with Flight 253 at all, and it's just 2 sentences buried in the bottom of the article. Why isn't this front page news all over the world? I really would like to know the answer to that. Number 2, why do they say passengers saw this man? I was the only person that saw this man that I know of, the only one. So I have another question to the federal government. Is there someone else that saw this man that's just not coming forward? Or, number 2, are you intentionally not stating my name because you don't want more publicity shown to me and what I've been stating to the public? It should say we're attempting to identify a man who Kurt Haskell said helped Abdulmutallab change. And I didn't say he helped him change planes. Not at all. This is another part of the story that's wrong. I said he helped him board by not showing a passport, which is an entirely different story. And this is just garbage that they're saying he helped him on to make sure he did not get cold feet. No, what he did is he helped him on without showing a passport through a secure area when he wasn't a passenger himself, the sharp-dressed man, and through some conversation in a back room, got this man on with a bomb and without a passport. So Mr. Brian Ross needs to get his story straight, although I'm glad for, that someone in the media is actually attempting to somewhat report what I saw.
So your wife was not with you at the time that you saw this?
She was, but we were playing cards and she had her back to what was going on. So I was facing the ticket desk. She had her back to it, and at the time it meant absolutely nothing to me. It was the total non-event. So it meant so little to me. I didn't even tell her what I had seen until after I realized it was the same man that tried to blow up our plane after we landed, and then I told her the story.
I see. Now, were you a witness? There are 2 named witnesses that I've been able to find so far. Well, I'm sure there's more than this, but 2 I found this morning anyway. Bo Taylor, an employee of USAID, and a woman named Patricia Keepman, who apparently were both on the plane and say that they saw, Taylor says he saw the actual attempt to, or at least once the commotion started, he noticed someone filming. Perhaps the filming had started at that moment, but Patricia Keepman and her family say that, I guess she's saying her daughter noticed that apparently someone on the plane was videotaping the attempted bomber long before, maybe throughout the whole flight, certainly long before he ever attempted to do that. Now, were you witness to any of that, the videotaping on board the plane?